This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIK.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya will be joined by Josh McCuistion. It is Monday, October 20th, and another recruiting rewind, going to a recruiting report back through. I always do that. I don't know why. Someday we'll just change it to a rewind. Either way, high school football, yes. Lots of it too. I was out at the Washington Marlow game on Thursday night. Our guy Harry was seeing Mustang and Edmond North. Josh was in town. He saw a pair of games. Choctaw Stillwater. We'll get into the Norman North Broken Arrow game as well. Did you have something to say, George?
I was just going to ask, did you catch a ride on the helicopter?
I did not. They beat me down there, too, because the traffic coming out of Dorman was unbelievable. Before we get into all of that, before we bring Josh in, let us tell you about our good friends at homefieldapparel.com. Homefieldapparel.com, the premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com and get the bevy of Homefield items out there with the vintage designs. A lot of really good stuff. And I think that we came back and all of a sudden fall is here. I know it's a little bit warmer on Monday in Norman, but the weather, I don't know if people have looked at it going into this weekend. 68 degrees for the high on Saturday with the Old Miss coming to town.
Gonna start needing some sweaters and stuff. No better place to get some of that stuff at Homefield.
Homefieldapparel.com. Certainly would recommend you get over there for the coach's jacket, bomber jacket, hats, crew necks, which I saw you this morning with the crew neck on, bouncing around town. So the best time of the year, the best weather, and of course, really good football coming up. As we said, homefieldapparel.com. Never too early to start thinking about Christmas as well, or Hanukkah for those folks out there. All right, let's get into it. Bring in Josh McCuistion. It was a very busy weekend for the Scoop team, hitting up a number of high school games, and no place better to start than the Washington Marlow game. Josh, how are we?
Good, Eddie. You're right. I think maybe our biggest high school football weekend of the year, and a good example of the 2027 class in the state of Oklahoma, because we saw a lot of dudes over the weekend.
No doubt about it. Let's start with 2027 linebacker offer. Case Alexander, Brent Venables, Nate Dreiling in town down in Marlow, which is kind of a fun, like, small town high school scene with all the chairs lined up around the field. But Josh, when we're talking about Case Alexander, the son of former Oklahoma tight end and NFL pro Steven Alexander, he was impressive. Just a flat-out ball player that doesn't leave the field.
Yeah, and I want to say, because it's sometimes easy for people to be like, oh, it's Oklahoma high school. The kid that 15 guy from Marlow, is a good athlete and actually is a baseball commitment to Oklahoma State. So, another good athlete out there with him. But Case, he's just so long, and they kind of moved him over to Mike here in the last few weeks or so, and I'm told that's just gone very well. And again, he looks like a kid that grew up around football. He's so physical, he's so aggressive with his hands, and I remember watching him as a freshman, and you're like, that dude doesn't play like a freshman. And now I watch him now, and he moves around and kind of has the reactions of a more veteran guy.
Josh, I would assume Oklahoma's in pretty good shape with him. I know they've missed out on a couple kids out of Washington recently. Obviously, Case's older brother, Cooper. But does it feel like OU's in a pretty good spot with Case?
It does. And I think, you talking about Nate Dreiling and Brent being there, I think that's an indicator of, okay, we kind of see the error we made. Maybe we took some things for granted. And this time, that doesn't seem to be happening. They are making sure Case knows what a priority he is. He talks a lot about that as, they don't recruit him as Steven Alexander's kid. They recruit him as Case Alexander. We want you to play linebacker for us. It's a different situation. It feels very different, and there's not I don't want to say animosity, because that's not the right way to say it, but there was kind of always it was some of the Washington guys before, it felt like, okay, are we going to get started? Is this going to get serious at some point? And it never really did. And I feel like with Case, they've stepped on the gas kind of from the outset.
You would have to think in 2027, if they could end up hauling in Case Alexander and Cooper Witten, a little bit of a star-studded linebacker class, if that could be the case. Certainly, just talking to people around the Washington program, too, while I was down in Marlow, certainly sounds like Oklahoma's pushing all the right buttons for Case Alexander. Obviously just a junior, so we'll have to wait and see. But at 6'2", 175, he caught a touchdown pass as well on Thursday night. Very impressive. And certainly, kind of as you said, Josh, moving into the middle linebacker, didn't look like somebody that had been lost by any means in his game on Thursday night. Washington did come back. They win the game 21-14, and a lot of that was because of what they were doing on the ground. A guy that kind of burst onto our scene, Josh, when he came to camp with Oklahoma over the summer, 2028 running back Josiah Dickerson. Not the biggest frame in the entire world, currently listed at 5'7", 170. He carried the ball 29 times for 232 and a touchdown on Thursday night.
Eddie, he's one of those guys that I think around the state, we talk about a lot of guys, even in the 28 class, where there's some young players already have got some big offers and are kind of well known. He's not there yet, but he's gonna be. Like there's no doubt he is a Division I prospect. The numbers you're talking about him putting up is against a good Marlow team, always a physical bunch. And to kind of see, Eddie, we were talking before we got started, and you mentioned that Washington just kind of say, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to hit people. We're going to play that kind of game. And having a quality quarterback like they do in that same 28 class and Creed Barrett, they could line up and throw, but they're like, we trust this guy. We're going to let him kind of lead the way. So I think it says a lot for how Washington sees him that they're willing to put such a big load on such a young guy.
Where does Washington get all these kids? I mean, they've got a heck of a...
Well, they've started to build a program, and I think people want to be a part of it. Obviously, Washington, not too far from Norman, just on the south side of Cleveland County. It seems like that's
good
kind
problem
of
for Oklahoma.
A place to move into right now.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. 8.3 yards per carry for Josiah Dickerson on Thursday night. Also on Thursday night, you saw Nate Dreiling and Brent Venables. They were joined by Jay Valai just up the road on I-35. That's why they were using a helicopter to get around the central part of Oklahoma on Thursday night. Gabriel Osborne playing for Mustang. Josh, I know this probably be the first time that you've seen some of the video that our guy Harry was able to shoot. I thought he was really impressive looking. 2027 quarterback offer that I believe earned the offer when he was still over at Putnam City High School before transferring over to Mustang this past spring.
Well, he earned the offer at camp this summer, and he had made the move at that point.
Okay.
But, I guess technically he hadn't played a game for Mustang,
sure.
So you could certainly go that way with it, Eddie. But, again, as a guy, you have to remember, at Putnam City, he played a lot of safety. And so the corner thing is kind of new to Gabriel Osborne. He's kind of learning his way, but
starting to really develop physically, too.
He looks awesome.
Eddie, you read my mind. Like, looking at him, I'm like, he was a kind of long, skinny kid this summer. Now I'm starting to see some muscle on that frame, and you're like, okay, because he's all of 6 foot, 6'1". He has the measurables you're looking for, and again, I watch him just run past that kid right there. So there is the thing I think you like most about him is I say this a lot with a guy like, oh, he's raw, he just scratched the surface. Gabriel Osborne is very raw. Like, you could see it this summer at camp where there's some technique stuff that, like, he's literally learning standing there as Jay Valai's talking to him. Like, there's so much that he doesn't know yet, but he's so gifted that he kind of just gets away with it. And you kind of wonder, well, what does this look like when he pieces it all together? I see a guy with just a lot of potential. And in some ways, it's kind of funny. He kind of reminds me of Michael Hawkins' dad when he was in high school, who was a huge recruit and a big deal 20, 25 years ago. And this Mike Sr. was this super athletic, just crazy long guy. And, obviously made it all the way to the NFL. I'm sure Gabriel Osborne will hope for the same for himself. But that's kind of what he reminds me of, is just this really raw ball of clay, but you've got so many high-end traits.
Josh, I would assume he's one of their top targets in the 27 class at corner.
I really think so. And again, credit to Jay Valai. He's got them in a good spot at corner. And we've fallen for this trap before, at various positions where you're kind of like, oh, yeah, they're good. You've got guys like Montre Jackson. You've got Mikhail Davis from Arizona, who's coming in this weekend, that's mentioned OU in his top 6. They've got a number of targets that they're really in a good spot with, but I get the feeling that Gabriel Osborne is rapidly becoming a priority. Because, again, I think OU is seeing something that we've hinted at for months and months, and they knew it too, obviously. But I think you're seeing them say, "Hey, man, we could really." There's a world where Oklahoma gets almost half its class from the in-state crop if they do this right, and in doing so would have a really good baseline of a class with all the guys, and we'll talk about Cooper Hackett and Caden Penny all the time, but there's a lot of players in state, Case Alexander being another one, that really aren't just like, oh, you got them and they're in-state guys, but are like good national caliber recruits.
You mentioned Cooper Hackett, Katie Penny, had some big moves in the newly released 2027 rankings that were released today on Rivals.com. Let's go to the game that you were at on Friday night, Edmond North, or excuse me, 3, 2, 1. Norman North, Broken Arrow. So much OK preps. I love it. Another 2027 player that is extremely talented. You can check out the interview that you did, Josh, with Samaj Stanford, who makes the move over from Jinx. Certainly seems like this Broken Arrow team is kind of making a move, as you said before we started, and it's because of guys like Samaj Stanford, very impressive athlete out of Broken Arrow.
Yeah, I don't know how many at Broken Arrow have any illusions about doing any better than playing for second place with what Bixby is doing to the world right now.
Sure.
But at the same time, you get the feeling like they think next year maybe Broken Arrow could really have something. But with Samaj, guys, every time I see him, he's better than the time before. He's so smart. He's so athletic. He's long. He's physical. Again, like we've seen a lot of good safeties come out of Oklahoma. You go back to, Stephen Parker. You run down the list and some good players that got NFL time. I'm not sure Samaj Stanford's not the best of the bunch. Like he's really, really good. And what I like, and I talk to you guys about this all the time, they play him more and more and more at receiver. They're like, he is a great athlete. We got to find as many ways as possible to get him around the football. And watch this speed turn. Like stuff like that he doesn't even make a play here. He's not even involved with it. But just his skills, you're like, man, he's a guy that I could absolutely see playing at a high P4 level as a freshman. Like I think he has that kind of ability and that kind of intelligence.
Josh, are you surprised at all by where he's maybe ranked in Rivals right now?
Very much so, and I have, and I certainly hope Cody Belaire's listening because he knows I send him hate mail about this on the regular. but no, it's one of those things where I've seen him a lot. I've had a lot of exposure to him. They really haven't. Samaj hasn't gone to a lot of stuff. He hasn't been out there nationally a lot. And I think at this early point, you can have some guys like that just kind of fall through the cracks. But I think when they see him, they get a good long look at him. I don't think there's going to be anything that they're going to knock him for. I mean, maybe you wish he was like 6'1" or 6'2" or whatever, but he's 5'11". Like, I'm not worried about his size. It's not a detriment to his game. And you just watch him in coverage. I mean, he covers like a corner, he hits like a safety, and he can play wide receiver. And again, the thing I came away with, guys, he could play wide receiver at the Power 4 level. Like, he is that athletic and that good. He had some moves in open space that you just couldn't believe. And I know I'm gushing, but man, I really am just a huge fan of Samaj Stanford.
Bryson Brown also in that Broken Arrow secondary. Let's flip over to the other side, Norman North. Daniel McMorris. I believe this is the first time that you were able to see him here during this senior season. Obviously, we've talked about him in Oklahoma. He finally picks up that offer. What did you think of Daniel McMorris's night?
Daniel going against a Broken Arrow group that's always big, very physical. I thought he had some good moments. And again, you can see what the appeal is. He is a guy that is big and long. I mean, like, look at him moving out here in space, going and picking up a block. Like, he's 6'6", 260. Like, that's not normal for a guy like that to move like that. Now, at the same time, you can also see how far he has to go. Like, because when we talk about Cooper Hackett won't step foot on a college campus for, 15, 16 months if he enrolls early. Daniel McMorris could be in Norman or wherever he's going to go in 3 months' time.
Sure.
He's going to need at least, it's going to be 2027 before he's really ready to even think about like having a role at the P4 level. Like, he's just going to need that time because not only is he technically in need of work, but he's also incredibly lean right now. He's going to show up to college at probably 265 pounds. And we know, you guys watch Michael Fasusi every day. Like, the difference in what you're looking at. So he's going to need time. He's going to have to be patient. But if he can do all that and he can wait his time, I think there's a real player there. I just think people are going to have to give him his time to physically develop.
It's going to really take some time getting used to Norman North playing at a home field over at Norman North High School rather than Harv Collins, where they played for so many years, sharing the stadium with Norman High School. 2027 tight end Ben Kohler, also a name that you were able to check out, a 2027 product, number 8 in your Sutter State rankings. Another one like Titus Hawk. Very talented tight end in Oklahoma's backyard. We've kind of talked about the communication between Ben Kohler and Oklahoma. Where do things stand with Ben Kohler? And then obviously, what did you think of him when you were able to see the Timberwolves last weekend?
Guys, I just love the kid. He's so athletic. It's so funny because he's so different than Charlie, who is a big physical kind of inline tight end. Where Ben, they're throwing him like bubble screens and stuff. Like, they're doing all kinds of stuff to get him the ball out in space and let his speed take over. He really is an athletic dude. To the point, guys, he plays a lot of like rush edge and stand up outside, off-ball linebacker for North. And I'm not sure he couldn't play that at the P4 level. I'm kind of, because he's probably 6'1", 6'2", 230, 240. He's kind of built like an H-back if you're looking at the offensive side of the ball. Now, I think he's an ultra-talented version of that, but you're kind of like, okay, what's the ultimate upside for him there? You think about, guys like Dimitri Flowers or Trey Millard that we've seen through the years that were great college players, but how far could they take that? With him, you're like, well, he could probably play linebacker, and I'd be pretty interested in seeing what that looks like. But again, like, that's not a knock on him. He's making catches in traffic. He's breaking tackles like you see on the video here. There's a ton to like. And, guys, I talk about this all the time. I love a guy that can, like, if it doesn't work at one position, you could try him at something else. He gives you a possibility of multiple outcomes that could be successful.
Big Kohler, he kind of looks like he's hit that growth spurt that maybe didn't hit Charlie until he got up to Iowa State. So certainly,
if you have that last
very
name, talented, he's a take.
Yeah, it's very athletic, very talented family. Obviously, John went up to Oklahoma State to play quarterback. All right, let's step outside of the games that we saw on Friday night. Billy Napier news obviously came down on Sunday. Unfortunate for him out of Gainesville. Davion Gross, wide receiver in the 2026 class that we've talked about many times here on the Recruiting Report. What's the latest with him, and could Oklahoma get involved now that there is a little bit of coaching uncertainty at Florida?
It's really interesting because, this is a guy we've talked about forever, and we knew there was a possibility. It made sense, kind of a connect the dots situation. But on Sunday, I heard from 2 separate people. One was, okay, he's pretty much back and, like almost back in the boat kind of thing. And you're like, oh, okay. And then I talked to 2 more people since then over the last about 12 to 18 hours. I'll tell you that the belief in Dallas is he's going to stick with Florida. Like that, there is a real thought that is where his head is at. I think he's very open to seeing who Florida is going to hire. I don't think he's in any rush to make a decision. And I think some of that, guys, is Florida made him a very strong NIL presentation. I think that's at this point it's kind of like, well, what else would he be staying for? So you've got to acknowledge the elephant in the room a little bit. But I think he plans to stick with Florida at least until they've made a hire and figure out what that is. Does OU want to wait that long for Davion Gross? I really don't think so. So, maybe this just ends up being a situation where they go their opposite ways. And again, Oklahoma's bringing in a receiver this weekend on an unofficial visit, the Jasir Rogers kid from Delaware. So
former Penn State.
There's a sign that this is moving in a different direction. Now, I'm not going to rule anything out because Davion Gross is tremendously talented, and Oklahoma has a great relationship there at Lone Star. So that door could reopen, but right now, I don't think that's the way that's going to play out.
He'll be great in Lane Kiffin's offense down there in Gainesville. Also notable, too, their GM, it's his first year on the job. I'm sure that he's not going to be fired. He'll still be there, for whoever the next head coach is. I'm sure that, he's helping with some of that. But, Josh, you mentioned Rogers. He's coming in this weekend. How big of a visit is this for Oklahoma?
It's huge, guys. I love this kid on tape. He's so explosive. He's so twitchy. He's what, like you talk about what you're looking for in a slot receiver. I mean, he's a guy that you takes a little hitch and goes 40 yards with it. I mean, he really has that kind of speed. I've talked about it before. I've heard him testing at legit camps in the low 4.3s and having like an 11-foot broad jump. He is an unbelievable athlete. I didn't know those guys existed in Delaware, but we know now. So, but he's a guy I like a lot. Now, he's got the one that looms is, I believe it's on November 8th. He's going to go to Alabama. So the big fish are lining up. This is not going to be a deal where he comes to campus and commits or anything like that. So don't have that, in your list of expectations for the weekend. But I do think Oklahoma can make a strong case and, have a few weeks to continue working with him, because as you pivot into November, guys, we start getting closer to those December, in-home visits and all that kind of stuff, and all the late jockeying for position, where I think it's pretty clear Oklahoma's willing to do some work at receiver. I think they know they need to add some, to beef up this class a little bit, and with him and a guy like Jaden Pettit that's still very much I think OU's involved with, again, another coaching situation that seems a little murky with Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. There's still some things in play here.
It's been a rough year in Madison.
Just real quick, I know we have to get out of here in a second, but big recruiting weekend, Josh. I know we just mentioned one guy, but obviously huge game. I know it's an 11 a.m. kick. That makes it tough, but is this somewhat a big recruiting weekend?
Yes, it really should be. As far as an 11 a.m. game goes, I would guess it's about as good as OU could do, because they've been working on this for a few weeks, and that's something that almost every guy I talk to of kind of the usual suspects, like Bo Bentley, of course, will be there. He's going to be working on guys. And talking to Bo, he's had a good look at the visit list and seems pretty pleased with what's going to be there. We're still confirming names. I need to actually get a list up this evening. But I mentioned Michael Davis, Brian Harris, another commitment. He'll be up from Florida, from Creekside. He's got a week off, so he's making the trip up. I'm trying to think of a few of the other guys I've confirmed. I've got probably a dozen confirmed. I would guess it's going to push more to like 35. So we'll have a much bigger list as the week goes on. But again, a night kick, I think it'd be more like 40 or 50.
Yeah.
So it's a good start, but obviously 11 a.m. always stings a little bit.
Good reason to sign up for a Sooner Scoop.
ESPN. I thought they left the Big 12 to keep away from things like this, playing 11 a.m. games and big kickoffs against Ole Miss. One more name, and then we'll get out of here, Josh. 2027. I think it was last week even. We were talking about the quarterback position. Dane Weber from Chaparral High School in Temecula, California. Certainly seems like that's a name that maybe Oklahoma fans should start familiarizing themselves with. He'll be making a visit to Norman coming up November 22nd for the Missouri game. What's kind of the latest there with Dane Weber, a quarterback out of California?
Yeah, had kind of, and we'd hinted at there was some quarterback stuff going on. This, for those wondering, I thought this was the guy we were talking about. Is a guy that Oklahoma's been looking at for, kind of has been on my radar for, I'd say, about 2 weeks. And it sounded like over the last 10 days, it had really picked up a little bit. He's talking to John Kusieski, Oklahoma's quarterback, coach, analyst. I don't know how you really want to term him, because he's so much more than just an offensive staff guy. But I do think they have put some energy into him. He sounds like a guy that they are taking very seriously. Talking to Dane, he's very excited about the Missouri game trip, and really said, hey, if an offer were to happen, that would really change things for me. Now, I know people kind of look at his offer list, and there's some good offers in there, but there's not maybe an Oklahoma level offer just yet. But I know Oregon has showed a lot of interest, and this is a guy about not this past weekend, but the weekend before, so about 10 days ago, lit up a defense that included Derek Johnson, OU's cornerback commitment from California, and his younger brother Darius. So probably as good a cornerback combo as you'd find in the state of California, and he put some yards on him. And I'm not saying it was on Derek or Darius. I don't know that, because I've seen just kind of snippets of the tape. But there's no question this is a guy that has some real arm talent, and frankly, guys, kind of reminds me of a guy that used to wear number 6 around Norman a little bit. I hate to put that on him, but it's not like that I'm not saying he's that caliber, but very much in the way he plays,
Sure.
like very accurate, kind of a stockier build guy. Just an interesting thing that OU fans might file away.
You heard it here first. Dane Weber, future Heisman Trophy winner.
6'2", is what he's listed at currently. Obviously, just going through his junior season. All right, that's going to do it. We'll keep an eye on things to come with Dane Weber. Obviously, November 22nd, still about a month away, as well as everything else that goes into this weekend with Ole Miss coming to town and the visit list, all that kind of good stuff that you can find on the Crimson Corner with SoonerScoop.com. Josh McCuistion, George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel Tuesday. Bye-bye.